Hello, thank you for purchasing my silver, gold, platinum and pewter material pack for Blender 2.8. In this video I'm going to show you how to use it. Here I have a very simple scene with a couple of lights, an HDR light in the background and this pirate statue that I got from BlendSwap. Currently it has the default material with the principal shader assigned to it. And in order to use one of the materials from the material pack, I first have to link them in. So I go to File, Link, then select the downloaded file, CRISP-SGPP, which stands for Silver, Gold, Platinum and Pewter. Then I open the node tree, I hit A on the keyboard to select all four materials and link from library. Now I can delete the principled node here. Now to use the silver material, I hit Shift A, Group, Crispy Silver. Use that and plug it into the surface. So this is the silver material we get. Right away we can see all the materials come with a vector and a normal input. So you can plug in your own texture coordinates. I'm just going to use the object one here. The silver material also has built-in color variations and roughness variations, and you can adjust those with this slider here. You can see you get a certain amount of variation going on here when you set this. The color saturation can be changed with this slider, so you can make it more or less saturated. Shiny silver also has very sharp black reflections, and you can fine-tune those with the Fresnel setting. So when I change this, you can see here we get this sort of effect. The overall roughness of the surface can be adjusted with this slider, and the silver material comes with a patina map. So here you can plug in a texture map or an image texture or vertex colors to define where you want black patina on the surface. A very quick and easy way to get like a cavity map is to use the built-in function dirty vertex colors. First, let me switch over to the 3D view. With my object selected, I go to Vertex Paint. Then I simply hit Paint Set Vertex Color so that I get a vertex color slot over here. I'm gonna call this Patina. Patina. And then I select Paint Dirty Vertex Colors. And now Blender uses a sort of ambient occlusion algorithm to paint vertices that are close to other vertices darker and other ones lighter. And when we go back to our shader editor, I can now hit Shift A, Input Vertex Colors Patina. And if I Control Shift click on this node, you can see this is the result of that dirty vertex color operation. Now in order to use this, I have to pipe it through a color ramp. Then I flip the color ramp and bring down the blacks. So only the cavities where we want the patina to be shown is white, because white is where the patina shows. So if I plug this into the patina map and refresh the view, and now I can adjust this a little. So here you can see we get this sort of black patina in the cavities here. Of course, you can plug in an image texture if you already have a cavity map, or if you want to apply this blackened silver effect to specific areas, like what I've done here on the coins. Okay, that's it for the silver. Next, let's check out the gold material. So let me just quickly delete these nodes. Hit Shift A, group, crispy gold, and plug this into the surface. Take the object for the vector again. This is our gold material. And you can see here with this slider, we can shift the color from this yellowish gold to a rose gold. With the saturation slider, we can take down the saturation a little to get like white gold. The variation scale, just like with the silver, changes the scale of the color and roughness variation. This sets the overall roughness of the surface. This is actually the easiest shader in this material pack. I forgot to mention before that you can plug in custom normals into the normal slot here. Let me just demonstrate quick. I create a UV sphere. Move it over here. W, smooth shading. Now let me apply the same golden material to it. Go back to the shader editor. Here you can see the variation with this variation scale really well now on the sphere. So I set it to something that looks good. Now I take let's take a brick texture and pipe it through a bump node. Take the factor as the height and plug this into the normal input. And you can see we get bump mapping onto our surface. Just like you would if you had a principal shader here, you could plug in normals. Same goes for all the shaders in this material pack. They all have a normal input. Okay, so let me remove this. Now on to the next material. Let me remove the gold and add the platinum material. Plug it into the surface. And here we have platinum. Again, with the platinum you get a bit of color and roughness variation, which you can set with the variation scale. You can see here. You can adjust the saturation of the platinum color, the overall roughness, and the platinum shader has this dirt feature. And I think that is best shown on the sphere here. So let's set this up like that. Now I take a noise texture, pipe it through a color ramp. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe increase the scale, definitely increase the contrast here a lot. To something like this. So wherever the dirt map is white, we get the dirt, and where the dirt map is black, we will get the platinum color. So we plug this into the dirt map here and wait for EEVEE to update. And now we have this raw platinum sort of look. We can adjust the scale of the noise texture. We can play with the contrast here. And of course, we can also take the same noise texture and pipe it through a bump map. Sorry, this output, of course. Then invert it so that the bump goes inwards. Adjust the strength. And then we have this kind of raw platinum look that still has dirt inclusions. The final material that we have in the material pack is the pewter one, and it's actually probably the most complex one. I'm gonna demonstrate its features on this plate here. First property we have is the color age. Pewter is usually this silver gray color, but sometimes when it ages it becomes more and more pinkish. So this is what you can do with this value here. As you can see here, just like the other materials, we have some variation in color and roughness. And on this shader, you can actually change the variation by plugging in a vector. So over here, I have the object texture coordinates, and I can adjust things by piping that through a vector mapping node. Right here, you can see if I switch this over to texture and increase the scale to 3, we have a larger variation. If I set it back down to 1, we get finer variation. So that's the first vector that we can plug in here. Then the next option is roughness, which is just the overall roughness of the surface, similar to all the other shaders in this material pack. Then something we can add here is brushed amount and brushed vector. Let me demonstrate by copying the mapping using the object, plugging that into the brushed vector and increasing this to something like 150. And now when I increase the brushed amount, you can see we get this radial brushed effect. And the brushed amount setting here also adds color variation. And by setting the scale here to 150 and 150 on the X and Y, I get this radial brushed effect. If I only do it in the X direction, I get it along the X axis. So I think for the plate, the radial brushed effect looks cool. Take it down a little just to give it a subtle hint of a brushed surface like this. Maybe increase the scale of the variation so that it's not so obvious. And this already looks like a very nice pewter plate. Similar to the silver material, the pewter also comes with a patina feature. And I want to show this to you by using an image map. So I take an image texture. I open up this ornament, which is this image. And that's gonna go around the outer rim of this plate here. You can see that I have a UV map for the plate surface on the top here. Now when I go to the shader editor and I Control Shift click on this ornament and I just use the alpha channel, you can see this is where we will have our ornament. And now I can use this to plug into the patina map here of my pewter material. So wherever you want patina to be shown, this is this sort of grayish, matte, almost black patina. You can plug in a patina map. You can use vertex colors or any other texture. Now in order to give this an even better effect here, I'm also going to use a bump map, take the same ornament texture and plug it into the normals. So we get this effect. I take down the strength to a 0.3 and I think I'm going to invert this bump map. So now this is what we have. And the last feature that the pewter material comes with is the pitted amount and pitted vector. So let me just turn up pitted amount to 1 and you can see the effect here. Pewter, when it ages, sometimes starts to get those little tiny pits, those little holes in the surface. And inside the holes is usually a lot darker. And this feature simply uses the patina and fills in the holes with the patina color. You can always use another vector for the pitted vector input and set the scale to something different. Right, so let me turn up the edge a little to get more pink in there. So now we have everything combined. We have a bump map for the ornament. The ornament has that different patina color on it. We have the pits, we have the brush, we have a little bit of color and roughness variation. And that is it for the pewter material. Alright, I hope you enjoy these 4 metallic materials. If you do, please drop me a note on Blender Market or on this YouTube video. I would love to see what you come up with, what you create with these materials. Again, thank you for purchasing the material pack. Have a great day. Bye.